Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy the show.
Pushing on, the other Super Rugby AU game of the weekend was obviously the Brumbies versus the Rebels. And this was a great game of contrasting styles for me. The Brumbies got up 27-24, 3 tries to nil despite the closeness of the score. So kind of similar story to what we saw against the Reds with the Rebels the week before. You had Scotty Sarah coming back from his back injury. He was replacing Slipper, who I think had a knee injury. And you also had Connell McInerney going down in the game with an injury as well.
Ankle. I thought it was a high ankle to me. But
that's right.
Confirmation.
Syndesmosis. I haven't seen if there's confirmation yet.
I think it might actually be a tibia fracture.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What did you think in this one, mate? I feel like this is a perfect game for you, Brendan, just to talk about how two teams can play so incredibly differently.
Yeah, look, the Rebels we've been seeing from last year, they have those two key players in Hodge and Tamua. Tamua, for me, being the strategist in Australia at the moment, he can really carve out wins when it's not deserved at all. A lot of people would say he's not getting his attack onto the ball enough. They're not making the line breaks. I think against the Brumbies they did have a lot. I'd like to read you guys stats on how many line breaks the Rebels did manage to make. But strategy wise, you can't really lose too many games with those two. I remember just before the season started, I was fortunate to have a chat to Scott Wisemantle about what they've learned through the Wallabies this year, and that was his key takeaway, is you cannot lose a lot of games when you have Tamua and you have Hodge. Now, Tamua obviously being injured for the Wallabies, and that derailed a lot of things, and maybe they relied too much on it and James O'Connor. But going back to the Rebels, when you have those two players, it doesn't really matter what else you have. You can't lose too many games because they can win the territory battle for you each time. And now this year they can create points. It's as simple as that. They don't need to score tries yet. Obviously, if you want to win games and moving forward at home, and they need to plug back some points and they need to plug back some bonus points, they're going to need to learn to score 5-pointers pretty soon. But going away from home, not playing a lot of rugby, taking 2 bonus points against supposedly the 2 strongest teams, not having a lot of injuries, that's efficiency. That's exactly what the Rebels are doing. Now, they have a tough last game away, and then hopefully by the time they get to Melbourne, everything would be opened up and there could finally be a bit of support behind the Rebels, because there's something coming here.
Yep.
Just strategically, such a smart team. You guys saw how the forwards got into the game against the Brumbies. I thought they're going to be bullied. Not for a second, were they? Marika Koroibete finally getting a bit more ball in the team channel, and a little bit more kind of plug and goes, which is something I think Australia should also be looking at. Very exciting. But talking about the Brumbies, are they becoming too addicted to the line out in the opposition 22? I certainly think so. I think too much of their play is geared towards creating that play.
Yep.
And while watching these games, I always think, what would you do against the Crusaders? So when it comes down to it, for me, I think the Brumbies are selling themselves short. They're far more talented than a line out in the opposition 22. I hope the Rebels shock them a bit, and that we'll see now moving on, especially against the Reds, them really coming out of their shells and unshackling themselves and playing a bit of rugby.
Yeah, look, I think an interesting thing with the Brumbies last week, I think we were saying, mind you, was against the Waratahs, that they showed that they have a number of strings to their bow. It wasn't only going for those driving more lineouts, but I suppose this week it probably did feel more geared to that. They got their driving more penalty try, I'm pretty sure, and a few other opportunities that they went for there. But you were talking about how the Rebels actually created a lot of opportunities this week. Again, I think that was a bit of an evolution from last week or previous matches. They had 450 to 288 meters. The line break stat that you were talking about, they had 11 line breaks to the Brumbies 3 and 11 offloads to the Brumbies 5. So they really created a lot of opportunities in this one.
Yeah, I think what struck me with the Waratahs Brumbies game last week was when the Waratahs, you guys will remember, they also scored a try off a line out in the Brumbies 22, but it wasn't a maul score. It was, I think it was after phase 3 or something like that.
Yep.
But through a little bit of gusto and balls and force, really just carved open the Brumbies. You know, you don't think you'd score after 3 phases against the Brumbies, especially not if you're copying a 50 whatever point loss. But they do go to sleep a bit. And I think that's what the Rebels focused on, is to say, you know what, no one takes these guys on. You know, everyone's kind of, it's almost like you're standoffish against the Brumbies.
Yep.
What if we ramp up the aggression a little bit and see? And I really think it worked. It's a pity the Rebels, I don't think they're that used to making that many line breaks, so they didn't really know how to round it off and actually score from it. That would be the next evolution. But it was fantastic to see, just all these spaces suddenly opening up. And I think the boys at the Brumbies will be really panicked, because that's the one thing the Reds can do. You know, they do carve teams open at will, and the Brumbies will have to focus on plugging that first.
Yep. I think it's interesting to say that the Rebels really came at them, and I think they stifled the Reds' attack the week before as well in a similar vein for the majority of the game. Marika Korobetti was the fantasy man of the match in this one. He had 86 points from 15 runs, 117 meters, had 12 tackle busts himself, 2 line breaks and 5 offloads as well. So he was just an attacking machine. And I think it was so contrasting to the rest of the Rebels backline, who seems so incapable of actually taking advantage of these opportunities. You know, they're 13, 14, 15, just don't have any answers when it comes to finishing off some attack. They seem to kind of do their job in defense, but they don't have any ability to strike at the moment when they do have opportunities come along. You also have a couple of other good scores from the Brums. You got Lachlan Lonergan had 57 points with his increased minutes thanks to Connell McInerney's injury. And Tom Banks, 48 points, scored a good try as well. And Rebels, Kabus Ilof, 43 points. I thought he would have scored more than that. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.